And we will call to order the Tuesday, October 3rd committee of the whole meeting. Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Clark.
Here.
Here. Roscoe.
Here.
Petty. Here. Wright.
Here.
Simon.
Here.
Thank you. Is there a motion to approve the minutes from the September 19th, 2023 committee of the whole meeting?
Second.
Motion by trustee Wright, second by trustee Malco. Any discussion? Clerk, please call the roll.
Simon.
Yes.
Wright.
Yes.
Petty. Yes. Malco.
Yes.
Babcock.
Yes.
Clark.
Yes. Item 4, public comment. Anyone wish to speak at this evening's committee of the whole meeting? Hearing none, we'll move right into new business, and we'll start with a presentation tonight. Here, honored guest David Sidney, founder of a business called Place Foundry. David, I think I'll be able to get your presentation up, but I'll let David tell a little bit about what it is this company does. He'll do a better job than I, but suffice to say he and his group have been involved in crafting the vision, the process, stakeholder engagement, and ultimately linkages to implementation for several municipal undertakings. It seemed like a good fit for Main Street. We've had a Zoom call and an in-person meeting with Mr. Sidney, and it seemed promising enough to bring it forward for presentation to them. And well, I can't share screen. Can I share over? Okay.
And if we can do the screen, we will define paper.
Yeah, I think I should be able to use that too. Okay, very good.
And this correction sand or
I think it's fine.
all right.
If you find where I have the name. That's not what I want to share. How much over my screen did 1 second. There we go. You just cue me to move through it, if you don't mind.
Awesome, thank you. Carol and or President Gustafson, excuse me, and Scott and Joseph, thank you for allowing me to be here with all of you tonight to talk about Place Foundry. And as Scott said, a company that was founded in 2021. I've been practicing as an urban planner in the private sector, public sector, and nonprofit sector since 2005. I served as city planner for Rockford for a few years before I then moved to transform Rockford and eventually became the executive director of that organization. It was during, and we'll go to slide 2, it was during being at home, isolated, working from home and realizing like what was next. Always knew that there was going to be something different beyond Transform Rockford, and that's when the idea of Place Foundry was born. And so it's been great to be on that journey. Michelle, my wife, and I launched the business in 2021. We are really, all we're doing is helping all of our clients to transform their underperforming property into higher, better uses. We call them magnetic destinations. So we love taking what may seem impossible and figuring out how to make it happen. And that's really the core of me as an urban planner, but it's the core of our business. So we can move to the next slide. And I really believe this. I'm just looking back over the last 20 years of practice and saying, hey, this doesn't have to be a mystery, and it shouldn't be frustrating. And planning processes can be very frustrating. And many people say, why do the plans sit on shelves? And that's what we are here to solve, is to take vision, take plans, and to execute them. Next slide. Just This is just a quick, by the summary of, we've been able to serve 35 clients actually, since we launched. Some of them have been one-time projects, some of them are becoming repeat clients of ours, and those projects range from individual project sites. They can be everything from custom built homes to commercial, single sites, all the way to 15 acres, 30 acres of land. We are doing planning work for urban infill as well as farmland, and as those property owners are deciding what they would like to do next. Next slide. So that's our team. We added architecture last year, and the architecture side of our company is growing, and that has actually really been very helpful, especially for our clients that move from vision to strategy. And usually it's with a property owner, they wanting to then now move towards building, and so we can move them right over to the architecture side of the company. Joe's been practicing as an architect for about 23 years now, and he and I we met at Larson and Darby. I was an intern there, and so it's pretty cool that our journeys have come back together. And we're having fun. Where do we work? We work, this is a visual by Opticos Design. It's a firm that is really, this is a concept that we are utilizing with some of our clients called missing middle housing. The middle part of our built environment has been pretty much wiped out of a lot of zoning. When you look at most communities pre 1960, the availability of townhomes, courtyard, housing, duplexes was much more available. We have tended to lean towards the left on the edge of the single family, and in the far right side in the visual you see where it's more of an urban downtown loft apartments, right? And those are really good projects, and we're doing those projects. What we as a company is we're saying we also work in the middle too. So where there's opportunities to introduce a different type of housing product, a different type of live workspace where you allow the entrepreneur to live and work within the same property, those are opportunities that we can bring to certain projects, depending on the vision for the community. Our process, this slide really captures how we do this. So typically on the far right, you'll see what we call place design and development. That's really getting into the drawings. You're moving towards breaking ground and ultimately construction. So we typically see that. What I always say is it's the strategy that leads to that. That's really what the work that we do in terms of the blueprint, and then even going further upstream, the mapping, and then further upstream, the coaching. Next slide. So specifically, it's getting at the strategy behind a place. It's one thing to say, we'd love to see loft apartments, we'd love to see single family homes, with various amenities, right? I'd love to see a Main Street corridor or a commercial corridor, right? Whatever you have in mind that you wish it would be, that is a very good vision to have. It's the strategy behind it. How do we get there? How to really actually achieve what you're going after? So that's depending on the client. So we work with municipalities, we work with chambers, economic development organizations, and property owners. Depending on where you're at is really where we start. And so with some of our clients that already have a vision and they've done a lot of that work, and we are really creating a master plan, and we're creating the plan that then will lead to the projects getting built. But if you haven't gone through that exercise yet of what is our vision, are we aligned around that vision? There's multiple ways to get to achieve a vision. We also work there too with you. Next slide. And as I said earlier, and then the design service part, that's really where we get into specific site-specific projects. Next. So I'm going to walk you through a couple of case studies projects that are happening right now. The first one is called the South Avon Mixed Use Development. That is located in Rockford. It's on the west side of downtown Rockford. And then Riverside Commons, which is located at I-90 Riverside Boulevard. So South Avon is a mixed-use development that will break ground, phase 1A breaks ground in May of next year. Our client is a community development corporation. They acquired roughly 14 acres of property, Kent Creek, so downtown Kent Creek, and then on the other side, this was a former brownfield site. It was a gasification plant at one point, so it took a lot, about $33 million to clean up over 10 years ago. And so it's been vacant. This is an area that's been disinvested for decades. And so this is a developer that is bringing a vision towards for this neighborhood to infill. And it's very exciting because it's coming out of a process. It's coming out of that strategy, what I talked about earlier in terms of the vision. There's about 2 years of community engagement that 1,600 survey respondents, asking the community, asking residents, asking business owners, stakeholders, public sector, private sector, what do we want to see here? What do we want to see happen with our peripheral neighborhoods to downtown Rockford? And so that work, housing study was completed, very powerful information from the residents and from stakeholders saying we want to see higher priority around food and access to better food amenities, housing, park and open space. We took all of that and we said, how much of that can we achieve in this 15 acres? So what I'm showing you tonight is really what we said. This is actually what people said. As planners, right? We love to bring our own ideas into this, but we really say people have already taken the time to voice what they want. Let's see if we can actually achieve it. And so what you're seeing here, it's going to be a variety of single family homes, there's some townhomes. The last remaining building on site that did not have environmental issues, it's actually the administration headquarters, where it's about 24,000 square feet, converting that into an artist maker space, and there'll be about 6 loft apartments inside that building. Really excited about that. Hopefully we can announce who that end user here very soon before the end of the year. And then single family homes, we're building a vertical farm. This building here, this will be a new structure where it'll be a culinary school, restaurant, and then there'll be a greenhouse on top. Again, right, those things that the residents said we wanted to see in the neighborhood. Next slide. That's about a $47 million investment that's happening after between next year and 2027, 2028. So really exciting. This other project, very equally excited about, is Riverside Commons. It was not called Riverside Commons 12 months ago. It was called District 1. And that was because we were working with the Parks Chamber of Commerce, and they wanted to prioritize placemaking throughout Machese Park and Loves Park. How do we take commercial corridors that are aging, declining, stagnating, and in areas that have yet to see further growth beyond, various reasons, right? The 07, 08 crash, and then the pandemic, right? There's a lot of things that are at play, and the chamber said, how do we make this a place where people want to live, visit, and invest? Three things. And so we've been working with the Chamber of Commerce for, we started September of last year, and we picked 6 areas across the 2 communities. And Loves Park said, we want to go first, and they were ready to go. And everyone agreed to do I-90 in East Riverside because there's development that has happened there, but it actually hasn't gone to its full potential. And Loves Park said, we've got to get it to its full potential. And so that was our charge. And so last fall, we began an exercise, next slide, working through what do we do with 1,400 acres of planting? There's some really awesome things already going on. Again, how do we leverage what's there? And so as we started to take a look around, you may have seen in the news announcements around a box market. That's a small portion of the entire plan, but it's going to be the phase 1 that launches next year. And ultimately, what the Chamber and what Loves Park landed on is we want to create a vibrant business, sports, and entertainment district, leveraging the Rivet Stadium, leveraging Sports Sport 2, leveraging Costco and Mercy Health, and then linking to Rock Cut State Park, making this become a premier destination for people to live, visit, and invest. And so we're going through, we wrapped up that process in the spring. We went from ideas to a plan. which I'll leave a copy with you that you can look at after my time. And what I really like about this process, I don't know if I, in my next slide, if I included it, yes. So the visuals, again, the visuals are a reflection of what's said. And this is an example of not residents speaking, but data analytics speaking. We started to bring in information, conversations, stakeholder sessions with the chamber, with property owners in that area saying, here's what's already happening. This map represents, this one here is Morrissey House 4 score 2. Each dot, they're very, on the screen is very small, represents about 50 individual visits. There's close to 2 million people, 2 million visitations happening at source score 2 annually. Then we, next slide, we introduced more market analysis around the trade area and specifically looking at Costco and a lot of the other retailers. A little over 2 million visitations happening at Costco annually. Those are transactions. And what we said is to the chamber is that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to create, not only create an experience, but we're trying to get people to move from 1 or 2 transactions, go to Costco, fill up your gas tank, to go to Costco, fill up your gas tank, stop at a restaurant, right? Or if you're at the tournament and you're lingering for 3 hours waiting for the next, where do you move on, right? How can you go across the street to a pub? Whatever, right? And then people could say, well, wait, there are hotels in the area. Could we actually stay here for the weekend beyond the tournament? Those are the kinds of things that we were looking at. And through that process, you know, this was really important because it took it off of population decline. Yes, we're in Illinois, yes, we're in population decline, but the trade area is actually growing and retailers are seeing that. And so this is actually a market that a lot of retailers are continuing to move into. Next slide. This is an example specifically as we look at the trade area around hotels, because the question came up, what types of hotels have we yet to attract to this area? And that would actually be a fit, would actually have a conversation with the developer or property owner. And so we're able to run those analytics to be able to show you the top hotels that would actually locate right at I-90 and Riverside. We created a land use plan, so again, 1,400 acres, really helping the city. And again, we really came in and said the city had done, West Park had done a great job already with their comprehensive plan, and we just recommended some minor policy and land use zoning changes that they will need to take to the broader community for approval. But ultimately, it's really in great shape. One of the unique things that we are going to do, we are exploring here is the Spring Creek watershed restoration. To really bring water into this entire development, stormwater management places in this area, and we have 2 bridges. Without getting into technicals, we got to figure out how water flows. This is upstream, downstream is Keith Creek, and all the damage that happened in Rockford. And so this is very vital to figure it out here. What we do here will have implications downstream. Next slide. So these are just some images. Once we take all what people are saying, data analytics, right? Can this vision work? Then we start to move into the really fun part in terms of visualizations. And this is just an example of the box market that we looked at different options around the stadium and other areas for Riverside corridor. Next slide. And then we packaged that all together in a cohesive story, including coming up with the branding for the area. So that's why it's called Riverside Commons. The city now has all the, social media and website domains, everything associated around this area being known as Riverside Commons. And this is what they're using to have conversations with brokers, with developers, and property owners. And that's where I actually want to end my time, because I know I've gone way longer than I had said I would go on. But we work with property owners and municipality trustees, council together. That's so crucial to the process. We have to have property owners engaged and developers and brokers generally. But because the property owners are the ones that are going to really bring the vision forward. And one thing that we couldn't plan in this exercise, we actually didn't come in going, oh, let's do shipping containers. It was literally the confluence of the new ownership of the Rivets team, the meeting, I didn't know was coming to that meeting, and it was Charlie from Linos saying, here's what we're thinking about doing. And we brought all that together and we said, well, hey, actually, we've been thinking about this, but we didn't know if the room would go for doing a shipping container type development. Because we want entrepreneurs to be able to start their businesses faster. That's the only reason why we brought this to the table. A lot of entrepreneurs cannot afford 17, 22, 25, 30 bucks per foot of rent to start your business. That's permanent real estate. We want that. But if we can get someone in at a much smaller operating cost, and they can really reach that 2.2 million people who are already built-in traffic, they can capture some of that. They're growing, right? And now they might actually consider permanent real estate on the road. But you've built them, you've supported them, and that's why the chamber, in the case of Loves Park and Chelsea Park, that's why the chamber partnership is very important. So it's an exciting project. It's very awesome to see 12 months later, we're in execution stage. So next slide, we're really running through business programming, infrastructure planning, their entitlement strategy. So that way, here's vision, and making sure that property owners and developers are not only bought into it, but they're willing to go through that process. And then the incentive structure. So you saw recently, I think, in the Crocker current in terms of the business development district that is going out. They're talking to business owners to get their buy-in on that for the retail and hotel sales tax. So that's pretty much a summary of who we are, what we are doing here in the Rockford market, and some questions. I think.
Side note, Joe Anderson from Rockford.
Yes.
Chandler Anderson.
I know Chandler, yes.
Is he related?
They're not related.
Okay, together.
But they have worked together in the past.
Yes.
Yeah.
I like Chandler stuff.
Yeah. Okay. So that's okay for a while.
Yeah. Chandler did some cool things downtown.
Thank you very much.
David, would you make comments on page 25 here, the focus area 1 of downtown Roscoe that you included?
Yes,
Can I
yeah,
get-
so I told you.
On the one way time.
Didn't want to take more of your time. So I love part of it.
So when you look at 24 and 25, I talked to, when I was talking to your team, talking to Scott, and President Gus and Joseph, looking at the Main Street corridor, and I went, whoa, this is a lot of area. It's a long corridor. But I also really appreciate the thinking that you're putting in already in terms of how do you link to 251? How do you really link all these businesses on the north end and south end and establishing your core downtown? So really 25 is what we're saying that, definitely start with that being your focus area, and then to link it to those other areas along the corridor. So you have to start somewhere, and it, as I look at it, just from some preliminary conversations, makes sense to Bridge Street, Main Street, figuring out what is that future, what does the community want to see there. Love hearing the stories earlier, right? That's exactly, I was writing down like, yes.
Don't steal it.
So, that's what you're seeing on 25. And then after that, 26, 27 just gives you an idea. So typical timeline that we have when we're working with placemaking projects, taking the market analysis, development feasibility, scenario planning, zoning policy analysis, brand development, stakeholder engagement, and developer recruitment. I will leave with you. I just brought 3 copies, and I can just check in a future date for people. We'll agree to it. This is for your comments. And so thank you. Any other questions?
We all heard you say that this takes a very long time. Looking in your crystal ball, or phase 1, typically you're looking at a span of time of a decade.
Well, that crystal ball. I would say here on this, actually, thank you, on the screen, what would be great to see for Roscoe at this time next year, that book that I just handed you is what you have for that area. And it could be the whole corridor too, But that's really kind of the immediate destination for us as a team. Just so then we have an aligned vision. It's a unified vision. Property owners have helped to create the vision as well as along with all of you as trustees. And it's something that the market can respond to. So to me, that is so clear. From there, then we can start to see what is, and we like to work in 18-month cycles, but you're talking for you know, creating a vibrant downtown. You know, you're looking at a decade of work, but that decade is also building. It's not just planning. So I don't want you to have that idea you're just planning for 10 years, but you're really trying to build the momentum. Because that first 10 years is what gives you the momentum that they get to the next decade where it just happens naturally. Where you're really, that's the goal, is you want to get to the second decade. So when different communities that, you know, whether it's Lloyd or even Rockford or any community, usually when you see the vibrancy, it's taken about 15 years to get to that point, from the initial conversations to that type of investment. 10, 15.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, David. To be continued. Item 5.2, discussion.
Can I ask one question? So what would be a next step for us?
He will join at I think, the administrator that he will join us on the 24th.
Okay.
Are we gonna get a memo on that? On the 24th?
The time frame, yes.
I would not be there.
In a decade, there will be some meetings.
Right. So that's 5:30 on the 24th.
We'll work it out. We had discussed that we would do these over dinner. 5:30 works. On the 24th, yes, for planning.
Good.
Mike's on this, so
I'm here.
Mike, are you gonna be there for 24th?
Yes.
Five point two, of discussion or recommendation of amendments to the fee schedule for the rental of or department cabin.
You have a redlining of our current version of the fee schedule as our ordinance kind of reads, and it's actually marked up with some recommendations based on some, I'd say there's got recommendations on some changes to make there. There'd be a slight change in the rentals for the residents from 400 or from 125 to 400, 350 to 600. It's just proposed ideas just for discussion purposes, but a change in that case. Also, you'll notice in there sort of maybe a little different or unexpected. We got removal of deposits in there. We don't often keep those deposits. We've done, I think, one time in the last X number of years, we've actually kept a deposit. However, every time we refund a deposit, a check has to go out to the person, and Janelle has to track it, has to send stuff out to them, has to get checks cut from finance. So that part is actually the recommendation is to actually remove that section about the deposits. And just it will cut a lot of staff time on that. And look at it, it feels like a small little issue that we're changing, but it will help cut a lot of staff time on that. We still would hold accountable the renters for any damages, right? If there's damage or they do something to the building, we still go after them. We can still, hold them accountable to that. It's just taking away some of that administrative burden for it. And another discussion would be just what we think is a fair fee for the rental to sort of cover some of the upgraded, sort of expanded services we have there. That doesn't have some heads if you want to address them.
Included in your packet is some information that staff put together. There's a cover sheet showing what the 2022 costs were associated with the cabin. And if you look at the accompanying pages, you have a breakdown by month as to what the utilities, cleaning, so on and so forth were. So all total in 2022, about $41,571.64 was expended on making that cabin available for rental uses. And the total rents collected that year, $15,750. And as Attorney Torres said, all of the rental deposits were returned that year, so I didn't give you the total of that. So you can see there is a wide gap there between what it costs and the rental. And the original grant, I guess, for this particular cabin was that it would be available free of cost for 501(c) organizations, which it is. And over the years, it morphed into just the common rental place within the village of Roscoe, and $175 is far below what is current market price of comparable types of facilities. The township offices do not rent for the whole day, or if they do, they consider it a rental party, and its costs are much over $1,200
Right.
for the day, so to speak. So I think, and our cost of rentals here have not increased since I don't know what the last time was. So the suggestion was made to increase, as you see, with a starting proposal of $400 for residents and $600 for non-residents. If you look at the list of rentals, you'll see that maybe a total of 6 people claimed they were non-residents and rented it in all of the year. So most of the rentals, of course, are those who claim to be residents. So the proposal, as you see here before you, is to raise the cost to $400 per day for the rental of the cabin.
Seems like a fair price.
I guess. I'm having a hard time understanding why we're figuring totals for the entire park into this. It's not just the cabin. Parks are free to use. We don't close the entire park down, so that's the cabin. So.
Cost was not figured for the total park. The man hours, labor were an assumption that 5 hours a week, there will be checks on the cabin, normal maintenance, and the fact that when you have all of those maintenance and repairs, whether it be just like delivering supplies or changing out bulbs or making sure the trash has been emptied or whatever, you still send out 2 people there. And they are paid a wage, they have benefits, you're using equipment, so on and so forth. And
But this
Yes.
is an assumed price that it's not.
because we don't track it individually, we haven't tracked
But
it
we also know
individually.
maintenance.
But you have a
Not
long,
$20,000 worth of man hours, that's for sure.
well, you have a whole list of things that were
Not
done
bad.
there. You have a whole list of things that were done in and around the building when it comes to just even cleaning up around the outside.
Round for you to it, it's the whole park and it's all your spreadsheets show that.
So what do you propose?
Well, I'm just saying, like, I mean, you have in your porta johns aren't connected, cabin. It has its own restroom facility. I mean, that has to do with the park. The cleaning, I get it, utilities. I mean, if that's just for the cabin, okay, I could assume that. Looking at maintenance items, I mean, you're looking at roughly just under $17,000, not 40.
So you're discounting the insurance on the building too?
No, I put that in.
So
So I got insurance, I got utilities and cleaning, because we did not put $5,000 maintenance in that.
you have itemized statements. If you look further at documents of things that
Oh, I
are
took-
directly related to items that went into the building.
Are there plans to, there's the roadstone, that's the parking lot, there's mulch, weed, fabric, that's the whole park, it's not just. It's all kinds of things, it's green treated wood, I know we redid baseball diamond dugouts. Yeah, I'm not saying that we're not spending money on the building at all, I'm just saying we did not spend $42,000 on it.
But do you agree that 175 is an under market price?
I don't know, I don't mind things that often like that. I don't know that.
Do we have plans to maybe pay more attention to the facility now that we've taken care of it, or I mean, I think that's something to look at, that we put X amount of dollars in that place, we better take care of it now.
I don't disagree with that, I'm just, what I'm disagreeing with is the fact that we spent $42,000.
You rent it a whole day or an hour,
All that,
usually the whole day for $175.
Yes,
For a resident.
And how big a space is it?
nowadays, about 60 people.
So 50 people, you can't go get a hotel conference for $50 that price, I guarantee you, anywhere. So to me, if people know that price, you're taking advantage of it, you couldn't rent anything for $175. It's got heating and air conditioning. It's enclosed space for 50 people. And that's a ridiculous price, $175, my opinion. Because
May I jump in?
you go try to rent a space for $175 for 8 hours. You're not gonna find any place, a hotel, if it's an accommodation, I've never been there, but only accommodation, if it's accommodation, accommodate 50 people for 8 hours. There isn't a place on the planet that's gonna rent that for $175.
Trustee Simon?
Yeah, I think that when you look at pricing and you look at expenditures and costs, I do think that we're undervalued. I mean, we're pricing under where we probably should be. I don't want to make this inaccessible to people either, and having such a large jump. I think it should be gradual, and we should monitor what the effect is on the rentals. I also think that we should concentrate on getting more volume, right? If we're gonna raise it, there's one way of increasing the revenue. It's either getting more rentals out of it or increasing the price. I would rather go on a route where we would market this a little more. A lot of people don't know where Porter Park is. Maybe it's on our village website and the website redesign. Hey, you have an opportunity to come here, pictures of it, what it looks like. Again, that would have to go into advertising costs, but I would focus on seeing if we could get more rentals and not have such a dramatic price increase to price ourselves out of the market, or have people that really could utilize this from a benevolent standpoint rather than letting them do. So I think there definitely has to be a price increase. I don't think 600 and 400, is maybe a little too high, but I think that, maybe a little lower than that. I'm not going to throw some numbers out until we research it, but concentrating on the volume.
Almost every weekend.
Almost every weekend it's rented for $175. So I'd say the demand is already there. It's shame on us that we haven't raised it more now, because there isn't a thing that hasn't gone up. If you haven't read the news lately or gone anywhere that hasn't gone up in price, around $175. Now, I would disagree, maybe that number, but you're saying $400 for a resident, $600 for a non-resident. How many people non-residents rented? Six in a whole year. Versus a resident's 400. So you talk about $400 for a resident. I'd still say challenge anybody in the room here to go find a place you can rent for 50 people for 8 hours a day.
Well, I would just agree with.
That's it? That's it?
I would agree with what Mike Simon said, as this is a
not
large
resident.
increase. You're going up 228%.
I'd rather
See, the gas price went up.
I don't care what the S is doing, we're talking about a cabin.
Well, and I'm saying we just approved that cabin by 200%.
This was always intended to be a.
Did it always look like
community,
this? What it was?
our community, our citizenship.
And our
So there's no
cabin-
reason, we're not a for-profit. So yes, where I can see going
I don't
up,
know that you're paying
but
your
not jump,
for $175.
you don't need to.
I guarantee you, if we do the overhead, I'll bet you're not paying the overhead for $175.
What number other than 400 would you do?
I'm up for gradual, 250
I would be okay at 250.
250.
So here's 275.
I can see 250 and
You
maybe
could, you could
400 or
275,
450.
$100 increase. That's
We're not
what-
getting much non-residents, so raising theirs up, I don't think matters as much as this was for our citizens, so we need to be more careful there, I think.
Once the trailhead, explain that to me, the trailhead,
Trailhead's gonna start at Porter Park, sometime 2024, 2025. That's, that trail is gonna link all the way down to State Street in Rockford.
you know,
You're gonna get people from Rockford that are gonna travel all the way up here or turn around here and go all the way back down to Rockford, vice versa. And so you're gonna draw a whole lot more people
But are they gonna rent the cabin for
if they
that
know about it.
journey, just to come up here?
No, the journey has nothing to do with it. The people coming up here and using our bathroom or using water or whatever we're gonna have out there and saying, gosh, look at this place,
That's
it's pretty
right.
cool looking.
and then.
Wow, we can rent this place? If you go to Rockford,
That's my
you're gonna kill you.
I still think it's hard on that.
So if we raised it a little more incrementally,
Yes,
and then when we see that non-resident increase, then we could maybe balance it out again.
because I see that as people are gonna come up and say, oh, I didn't know this was here, maybe I can rent.
Yeah, I think we market it like Mike said,
And,
too.
and,
It's
and,
brand new, let's show it off.
but this, we're also not collecting from the Boy Scouts that rent it during the week, I mean, because they're a 501 C3, I mean, there are entities that are using it right now that aren't paying us.
Originally, it was intended for an educational
Yeah.
center, it wasn't intended for a rental.
Wasn't it a nature,
Yes, it was all supposed to be nature, and that's why the old shelving in there used to have dead critters and
Yeah.
crab, I mean, it was all educational. And we rolled it into something more, and as Carol said, we probably need to look at the marketing and be a little more progressive with the pricing, I just think that's way too much, I think going from 175 to 400 is just, right now, we're having birthday parties and stuff in there, let's do the 250 and see what that does.
you're
If we
still
see-
gonna get people complaining, but it's a starting place.
Along with this, I'd like us to set up some sort of like business category too, for businesses renting it, having a local and non-local business category.
Well, that was your vision when you wanted to expand it upstairs, wasn't it?
Now, that was more for the rentals, that was Stacy's thing.
We were trying to add amenities, because when you add amenities, then you could, if we added something, then maybe this 400 would make more sense, but we're not adding any amenities. Fixing it and cleaning it, that's on us because we weren't taking care of it for a while.
What kind of amenities would you have?
A kitchen.
You could add a kitchen, we talked about adding like gaming and stuff upstairs for the kids. Maybe you put in a TV system, you know, so that the kids can go upstairs, the parent, maybe we put in a projection screen so that we could get more businesses in there to do presentations like the gentleman today did.
Focus groups.
Yeah. Those kind of amenities, then you can start increasing even more. Because you're adding something to it, there's added value. Cleaning it and fixing it is an added value, that's shame on us for not taking care of our property.
If you have 50 people in there, they don't bring in food, is there a restriction from any of that?
They can bring in-
No alcohol.
If you add a kitchen to it, I think in your interest.
But we're just talking out loud.
Yeah, well,
And-
I'm just talking out loud as well, and my point is that I challenge anybody here to go rent any space in a hotel. There's no amenities in it other than a table and chairs where you can have a meeting. I don't think you're gonna find it for 8 hours, so you can rent it for that price. You guys suggest a price, I'll approve it. 175 is definitely too low. And I'm not looking at the sheet for the cost, but the overhead for supporting the business or any facility costs money. Nothing back to, forget about making a profit off it. Let's at least cover the cost, and respectfully, we've spent some money improving it, we should expect to get more for it.
I'd like to make a motion that, we raise the rental to $250 per residence. And what, $350 maybe for non-residents?
Maybe $50 more, 400.
I have all my notes somewhere. Yes,
400 for non-resident. Okay, there is a motion to amend the rental policy to increase the rates for residents to $250, non-residents $400, and is this eliminating the cleaning deposit? That's a suggested component of the revision.
now,
as well.
I understand where you're going, it's a lot of work for
Because I'm gonna have one other element to that. It will often be rented Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. We don't go in and check it in between those to see that occasionally someone might say, there's some trash. And so then you guess it was probably the person before, or maybe it was the person two people before. We don't monitor it in such a way to make claims against deposits. We shouldn't.
Can we ask
So
for
you're
a
asking
credit?
for a deposit, let me understand, you're asking for a clean deposit, and then we give the clean deposit back if they clean it?
If
We
it's,
give it back if we don't hear some horrific mess that was left behind.
Okay, so there again, to me, it's like do you pay for a cleaning in addition to a deposit?
yes,
You do pay for the clean.
no,
We, us, we,
Yeah, well, okay, so.
I mean, what do you mean, yeah.
You go to any house that you rent on an Airbnb, you pay a cleaning fee. That's just part of it. You know, you're gonna use it, you pay a cleaning fee. It's not a deposit. You put a deposit, but you pay a cleaning fee for any Airbnb. So here we're gonna rent a place, what causes anybody not to clean up that?
My suggestion would be that just be a component of it to be indicated that that's in the price, as opposed to charging.
Yeah, okay, I'm sorry.
Separate payments.
As long as we're factoring in that, okay, then it should be $300, okay, you get $50 for cleaning. How much does it cost to send the people out there to clean? We're paying them less than $25.
What are we doing?
It's on here, 325.
Yes, $395 a week.
To clean it?
$3,900 a year.
yeah, about 4,000 a year.
They clean up
So how
the
much is that a week?
What did you say it was?
Or 3,900,
For 20,
what they were making.
Right, $75 a week, that sounds about right.
No, so that's one thing, okay.
$75 a week we pay. They only go out once a week though, we only.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, that's okay, but you could rent it to 7 different people,
yes,
so now you've got 5 people that took care of it, 2 people, then the person who moves in on 6th day has got a dirty place, now who's gonna clean for it? Yeah, I don't know, to me, if I were renting a property and somebody moved in, there's gonna be a clean fee, they move out, now if they stay there for 3 days, they still pay that one clean. So I don't see how we're supposed to be responsible for somebody coming in.
I'd like to call the motion.
Not what that means.
So we're raising $75.
We're still in discussion.
Right,
Okay.
that's what we're proposing.
I support an uplift with a cleaning fee.
As a result of discussion,
We have a
does your motion stand, Sue, at 250 and 400?
Yes,
Okay.
can
do
somebody,
we
Second.
okay,
do
Here
we
we
want to create a business category as well? We don't currently.
I have this question.
Okay, so that's a separate motion. But go ahead, President Custer.
I'd asked Troy to investigate bringing internet to it, and it's not a simple thing, because there are no lines out there. And it would be yet to be figured out what the cost is. So our business use is dependent upon internet. If they are, we have no internet out there. So it might be something that we could delay once we find out what the cost would be for providing internet.
Yeah, that's fine. I didn't know we should.
I thought we would, and I learned that.
That's the best conversation. So.
Yeah, but then in the interim, they learned that
That's
there's no
fine.
lines or anything out there.
No, good with you.
We either have to be able to speak to bring it in.
You've been calling roll votes, correct? All right, why don't we have a motion in a second, why don't we call the roll, please, according to
Exactly.
corresponding secretary. The motion is to increase the rental fee for residents from 175 to 250, and for non-residents from 350 to 400.
With return the cleaning deposit or incorporating the cleaning.
There will be no cleaning deposit.
Moving it just in the books.
This is now. Any cleaning fee is a component of those $2 amounts stated. What do we call roll?
Petty,
Yes.
Malaco,
Yes.
Wright,
Yes.
Simon. Black,
Yes.
Babcock.
No. Motion passes 4-1. We did not have Simon. Discussion and recommendation and entering agreement with Mayville County Health Department relating to tobacco enforcement program. Who's got the floor on this? That's you, chief. Sure. Okay.
So all of this, we've been in agreement with the department for years. This is for the tobacco enforcement program. This is where we go around with undercover agents that are provided by the health department. To do compliant checks with all the businesses for tobacco. So.
Do we enter
Direct questions or anything?
do we enter an agreement every year? I mean, you guys have been doing this every year, right?
I don't think that they've done it every year, but I don't know when the last time they agreed.
That's true, because I think it's 2021, maybe before, I think COVID, I think, but yeah, I think right before COVID, probably. Sure they might do it.
So this one is actually for October 1st of this year until June 30th, 24 though. So I'm guessing that the health department's probably trying to make it more of a yearly thing.
Yeah.
So.
Make a motion, we send 5.3 to the board.
Second.
Motion trustee Clark, second trustee Petty. Any further discussion?
So they're changing it from 13 to 14 tobacco retailers.
Yeah, that was with the health department drew up this contract.
Yeah.
And upon receiving it, we had noticed that there was an additional one actually on engineer, so we had Xed it out, we had sent it back to them thinking that they would update the contract, but for some reason they weren't able to update it in the program, so myself and Martel was initial next, that's correct.
Okay.
Call the roll?
Babcock,
No. Yes.
Black,
Yes.
Wright,
Yes.
Malaco,
Yes.
Petty.
Yes.
You still gone, Simon? Just checking.
Item 6 in the old business. And we'll move on. Best for last. There we go. A brief introduction to municipal, oh, this does not sound brief, introduction.
Not really, it won't be that long,
So,
no.
Yeah, at 8:06, trustee Simon sent a text that he had to jump off. Let me record you.
Really, this is gonna tell us just. We needed one date in mind here, everything else and move. But there's one date that's hard, so. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Okay. So there's two things here, we have a budget timeline, we have a tax levy timeline. The tax levy timeline to me is the hard date. So that has to be done and approved by December 26, 2023. So moving back from there, I think this is what I put out as a giraffe, this is probably extremely aggressive, but I just kind of put dates out there.
But also the levy approval, the budget approval are two separate.
Yeah,
things.
two separate things, yeah.
They've never happened on the executive.
Yeah.
Rarely happens.
Yeah, so let's start with the tax, you'll have a limiting rate calculation estimate, this gets updated quite a bit. So this is as of 9/5/23. We'll go out and look, see if there's another update. The interesting thing about this one is the actual extension amount of 1.69 million, but your max is 1.678. Which I think doesn't happen very often. So what that means is that if you don't want to have a public hearing on the 5% increase from the year before, you have to do 1,678,629. If you want to do more than that, then you have to have a public hearing, which is the truth in taxation.
You haven't had that option last.
And this-
years.
right, that's what I said.
First time I've seen it in.
Yeah, this was kind of unique, I so.
And like I said, this does change quite often, so I'll get another one from Tammy Hillis from the county. Because they seem to change the EAVs, so, it kind of.
Do you want to touch on the levy, is the concept of the levy, a tax levy?
Oh, yeah, sure, so there's another page here, here's your EAV. The county calculates all that stuff, and like I said, that changes based on sometimes a new construction value. And there's send property tax changes, you know, so the value changes, and that seems to happen over time. And so we take that, the base extension, which is the estimated current EAV, which is 293 million. And then there's the new property, 2.2 million. And then they take the tax rate, which we'll have to come up with, and calculate out your taxes, which basically the limiting rate is the max rate you can, you know, go with. So, which is 0.5751.
I might add, if you don't mind, that the levy is the maximum, is the total dollar amount of all combined taxes that we're allowed to collect.
Yeah, that's a good point, because I actually, this is what you collect. I mean, this is actually the collection. I didn't hand this out. I just happened to get this today. So you're right, that's the maximum what you can for everything.
Yeah, and then the rate is figured out working backwards from that number. That's why you have taxes due in 21, payable in 22, and you look backwards from the levy to see how many properties, how much real estate that levy is spread out across, and that ends up coming up with the tax rate. Right. They do not rise and fall together necessarily. That's just a concept that it's important that people comprehend, that it's tough to bring around. If you were to not raise the tax levy at all, well, then the village will take in the exact same dollar amount of property tax that they did the year before. Now, if our EAV has increased, there's more property with new development, that means that that same dollar amount gets spread across more properties now, and everyone's rate goes down some as a result. More people are paying in to make up that levy amount, that total amount. If you look back historically, even over the past several years, even taking the 5% levy increase, that didn't even keep pace with growth. So it still resulted, while the village itself would collect a higher total amount, there were still more properties paying into that, so tax rates still went down on individual properties. Now, if you would not have taken a levy increase, they would have gone down even a little bit more, right? Because they would have been making up that smaller dollar amount. But a raise in a levy does not mean necessarily a raise in the tax rate, because there are more properties. And it is, as we talked about, capitalizing on growth and new revenues and bringing in new business and generate or new development, new property tax revenues. The village would receive those revenues without raising the levy. Now, you could say we're not going to raise the levy, and those additional revenues still the benefit of just lowering, more people paying in, so they pay less.
If I just add something to that,
Yep.
so the concept of that, if you don't add to that levy, you lose it
Forever.
It's gone. And
But is it not though the individual amount of tax that I would pay or you would pay is based on the rate times what our assessed value is? So even though the rate may have gone down or the rate may have been flat compared to last year, if our assessed value goes up, then the dollar amount of my tax bill, your tax bill, will go up. We're dealing with fractions here, so to speak, or formulas. The levy is dependent upon the adjusted equalized value. So you divide the adjusted value into the levy and you get your tax rate.
Right.
Then you apply the tax rate to my assessed value per 100 and you get the dollar amount I pay. So most people, when they look at their tax bill, they look at it, they're just looking at how much more am I paying this year than last year? They're not looking at all those other machinations here. Whereas they are important to us as a municipality, when we're taking a look at how much do we want to collect to fund what we want to fund.
Along those lines, generally, you could get a higher, you could request, this group here could request a higher dollar amount, and your actual tax bill you're looking at is, it could go lower. Even if your assessed value goes up,
Even if your
because
assessed
you
value
have
goes up.
more
If
property
based on-
and.
Right.
you have more
If
property
there
that's
are
brought
more
in.
sharing.
Correct, yeah.
You're right, this
So there are
does,
lots of, it's a function.
It
the
is.
process that President Gus just talked about of adjusting the assessed values. That's what results in these numbers of telling us how much we could raise the levy. It is based upon growth and increased and added value. The magic number there is 5%, though. Generally our allowable increase has been less than 5%, correct? This is the first year where we
No, well,
the option, because 5% just triggers a new, anytime you raise by 5%, even if you were, as we are now, allowed to raise it by more than that. That's another series of another public hearing or another process. Which we've never had to go through them. Never even had the opportunity to change them.
Yes, let's speak with the unique.
yes.
Looking at this, are you able to tell whether or not the tax rate will go up? The property.
Next year.
But you could be. Absolutely. Crazy people.
What I can say though, based on conversations of individuals, those who had their properties reassessed this year, most people experienced an increase in assessment of between 10 and 12% across the board, across the county.
So that's the tax part of it. The other side of it, I gave you the code sections, you know, look it up yourself, do that. I actually gave you the code section, property tax information on the second page here. Look that up yourself. Ideally, on the 17th, you have a draft of the budget. November 17th, you have a second draft, you have some kind of tentative vote. And then you would set a public hearing, you have 30 days after that. It has to sell in 30 days. You know, I'm confident. We set the public hearing, have a notice of public hearing at least 30 days prior to the next. Prior to the next time. And must be made immediately available for public inspection for at least 30 days, so 30 days. November 21st, you have some discussion. This is where you kind of determine what we're going to do in truth and taxation. You know, we're gonna go over the top, then over the 5%, we do that. December 5th, you have your public hearing. And after the public hearing, you ideally have a final vote on your property tax levy. And actually, I think you kind of have to have a final vote on your property tax levy there. The final vote, ideally, you have a final vote on the budget, and then you would be done by this 26th. Now, let's keep in mind, the budget does not have to be done by the end of the year. You have until the first quarter following year. So this, like I said, this is if you want to get it all done by now. The main thing here is that December 26th, you have to decide on that levy.
Yes.
And everything else will be built back from that. That has to go to the county, that has to be approved, everything.
We have historically voted on the levy in November, even have we not? I think just to lock that element down. Past several years, we've let the final vote on the budget drift into January.
And Mark, when in the schedule would you have revenue projections available?
I would think somewhere in between October, November there. Personally, it's October 15th, so this becomes extremely difficult for me to do anything beyond corporate tax return or personal tax return, but yeah, somewhere around. And I actually got the state's projection of revenues in the last.
That was it. That's it.
Don't my emphasis. I was bigger for this, the bigger process, we're getting into. I think the bigger process is the tax levy, making sure how you wanna handle that, but the budget process is. Get it out there, so you can talk, I mean, the bigger process, you guys talking about it.
Yes.
Right? What are you gonna spend the money on, what are you gonna do? That becomes.
It's so funny how you try to distill it down. The past several years, we've done a memo with one of the drafts, first or second draft, and breaks it down into. What are we buying? What are we building?
Yes.
What are we, I took like do 3 categories, so like broad categories, here's stuff we're gonna buy, here's stuff we're gonna build. I can't remember what the was. Any public comment?
I have a question, which I should ask in all business. So I'll just ask it, I doesn't know the answer. How much are we paying this? Place boundary? To come and talk to us?
And we have not yet received his proposal, have we?
We've not.
So we have to get that to you.
The intention was to get this starting next Friday, he said he was gonna have that to us.
So, because that would have to be decided at the next board meeting, whether or not you wish to engage him. If we don't, then we don't have a meeting on the 24th.
Okay.
For the first reading, right?
There's, yeah, I don't.
Except for 2 hours of his time or doing a 2-hour one that night.
Would you repeat your
The
question?
24th, that's a 2-hour meeting, or did we hold it an hour?
I guess you can try.
I think the proposal he's gonna provide us is the meeting to speak for that, and then maybe I think overall proposal, we might to engage them to do some basically success. But I don't know more as you have your discussions about that. I think we're sort of,
You have one.
I don't have quite a set proposal yet from him, is because we're sort of going to hold off until you guys have a chance to meet with him directly. Talk about your plans and what you want to.
I'm envisioning if he's gonna do his proposal for an hour, do we get to an hour to discuss amongst?
When we met with him and talked about this rollout of the 24th, it was to give him in advance, perhaps some questions you might have. Or some topics you wanted to discuss so that we could narrow the focus. And we could solicit those from him as well. That was my understanding in the conversation, so that we could maximize the amount of time. So if there are topics that you wish to have him address immediately on the 24th, you shoot them to Scott or me or Joe.
I kind of like the fact when Justin brought all this up the first time was that we all get to share something amongst us.
I think we would probably try to have it included in my conversation, though, because it'll be a part of the process as we move forward with them throughout the falls.
And one of the thoughts too is that you could sort of facilitate that. He sort of has an experience in sort of knowing which, he wants to hear, you will be listening in the conversation, but he's the one who will be sort of asking those questions and sort of directing you and think about this and what do you think about that, and sort of a little more focus of a discussion that way.
I don't think you'd have to censor yourself in any way or have any sort of a different conversation.
Absolutely.
And who do I email? I
Anybody?
have 15 topics already, so.
Shoot them to Scott. And they may be things that Davidson automatically does when he begins these types of conversations with the group, because it's not really invented.
It's just some of the things he's not gonna know. I mean, some of the things we've done behind the scenes with meetings and some of the people that we've already spoken with, topics like that, that I think we should all know about and that we should all, discuss.
I think that they're probably valuing him though at times bringing us back. Like, I think that we are.
We're just
I don't wanna get too. in the
like
weeds.
herding cats and sometimes with our ideas.
Well,
And
yeah,
try to
not
bring them.
ideas, some more ideas, but it's just, meetings with Sunil that we should share with everybody here, that, so we're all on the same page. And moving. That he may not know about. I'll just send
Yeah.
it, I'll send it.
Okay. as I look at this is that, we'll, you know,
It's,
we'll pay him for some of his time to come that night, and then I think based upon how we feel that experience went with him, getting through the discussion and having seen a little bit of a broad overview of his company, and then we would then decide to engage Place Foundry as a consultant to take us through the full process beyond our process, but to start, because I'll be honest with you, I think a element of this that we are ill-equipped to handle on our own, both from time and expertise even perhaps, is all of all the stakeholder engagement. All of the outreach, all of the facilitating meeting with property owners and stakeholders.
Yes.
And I think that we would benefit from assistance in that space.
well, he doesn't step on fair ground at all. I don't know the boundary. No.
That plays a significant part.
What he did mention previously is that he had had chambers of commerce to work with in other communities. And we emphasized that we really don't have that here. And so it's going to be kind of a harder challenge to bring together the stakeholders and to have that buy-in.
I might suggest that I think it validates our process somewhat. I think that there is an inherent skepticism when the public is hearing something directly from the municipality. And I think that having
Heard it before.
And I think that a consultant, an outside voice, leading that where the village and property owners and stakeholders are partners in the process, someone else helping us navigate. I think it'll result in better.
Clearly has the experience. I would think though, he would still be in pre-sales mode, and it's 2 hours that you're planning, here would be. You know, there's not really anything to propose, it's already decided for what we wanted to propose, so I think we would be doing that. As part of, I don't know, we said you, but it seemed like we would be in pre-sale mode, say. Okay, here's what I can do.
Yeah, I agree.
And then get a proposal. I don't expect to pay for this next step. He clearly understands, clearly a good place. In fact, when I had talked about before, I was researching just to find some of that, and they're pretty hard to come by. A lot of them just didn't respond, contact.
I think it's sort of paying for time, like just give it a small,
Yeah.
leading to a bigger proposal.
Yeah. We done?
Tell me. No need for executive session. Is there a motion to adjourn? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign, we are adjourned. Thank you.